Hello everyone, I hope you are well. Welcome to another exciting class of After Effects. In this class you'll learn all about stroke. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced artist, this class will help you improve your knowledge of stroke and you can utilize the full potential of stroke. Let's see the class curriculum to better understand. I will start teaching from the basics and then we'll go further gradually so you do not miss any important points. You'll learn pro-level tips and tricks, how to overcome the limitations, and also how to animate text, lines, dashes, gradients, and much more waiting for you. After the end of this class, you can use the full power of stroke, and you will be capable of making amazing animations. So, without further ado, let's get started. Let's start from the basics. Let's understand what a stroke is. Look at this box. It has a white outline and red color in the center. So this white outline is the stroke of the box, and the red part of the box is called the fill. But pay attention that this blue line is not a stroke, it's called a path. Let me show you another example. This time I'll draw a line. So this blue line is a path, and the white part around the blue line is the stroke. I hope this is clear. After opening After Effects, I'm going to create a composition first. Let's create a composition by clicking this option. These are my composition settings. Okay, so I have two options to create a shape in After Effects. The first is the Shape Builder tool, and the second is the Pen tool. If you're not familiar with the Pen tool and Pen tool types, I recommend you watch this tutorial available on my other channel. Link in the description below. Alright, I am using the Pen tool to create a shape. Now, look carefully. When I select this Pen tool, some options are visible in this section, like Fill, Stroke, and Roto Bezier option. But in this class, we only focus on the stroke. Let's create a shape with the Pen tool like this. As you can see, when I create the shape, a shape layer is automatically created in the Layer panel. One more thing. If you are unable to see this line after making the shape, simply turn on this Toggle Shape Path visibility button. Then, if you want to change the path color of the shape, click this Layer Color box. You can see there are lots of different color options, and you can choose as per your choice. Alright, that's clear. Let's understand the options of stroke, and I am happy to start with the stroke width option. Now, look at my cursor. If I click and hold, my cursor shape changes. If I move the cursor to the left side, the stroke width decreases. If I move the cursor to the right, the stroke width increases. By the way, you can also change the width by entering the value like this. One important thing I have to tell you is that whenever you change the width of the stroke, it will change from the center, and this line is the center point. Okay, this is a color option. If I click here, this box will open called Shape Stroke Color, and you can change the color of the shape from here. This is an eyedropper tool. You can pick the color from this tool. Now, this is a preview button. If I uncheck this option and try to change the color, I am unable to see the real-time preview. So make sure this preview checkbox is always on. Let's see the next feature of this box. This is a hex code box. You can simply put your hex values to get a perfect color. Also, you can see the RGB values of the color from here. I hope you understood these box options. Now I'm going to show you the types of stroke. To see the stroke options, you have to click here. After clicking on the stroke text, this box will open called Stroke Options. In this box, you can see there are different options. Let's understand them one by one. So, this is a None option. If I click it, the stroke is disabled, as you can see here. The second option is Solid Color. If I click on it, we get back our normal stroke. Then, next is a Linear Gradient option. If I click it, our shape color changes into a gradient color. Let me click OK so I can show you better. If I select the selection tool, you can see the keyboard shortcuts on the top of the screen. So these points are visible, and I can drag them to change the gradient of this shape. This is the start point, and this is the end point of the gradient. After making this gradient, you can see the stroke color icon changed just like our shape gradient. And now, if I click on it, this box will open called Gradient Editor. This box is different from the previous one, where we can choose only one color. But in this box, you can see more options. Let's see them one by one. As you can see, it's written linear gradient, and this box is highlighted. If I move the cursor, it shows that it's a radial gradient. It means if I click on this button, we will switch linear gradient to radial gradient. But we will see that later. Alright, so this is our gradient, and we also have some cones called color stops. If I select this, I can drag this to change the gradient style. As you can see how it works. Similarly, I can drag this one to change the gradient. Now look at this small icon. It's called Color Midpoint. As we understand the function of this icon by its name, it will help us to move and change the midpoint of the gradient. We can move it from the cursor, or you can change the location value of this midpoint of gradient. By the way, you can also move this color stop icon from here. Alright, what if I add more color to this gradient? Well, you can simply click here to add a color stop like this. You can add so many colors to this gradient, and between each color, you will find this color midpoint icon. Okay, so you can simply click on one of the color stops, and then you are able to change the color of that point. This option allows you to get full control over the gradient. After making color points, if you want to delete this, all you need to do is select the color stop and click delete, and you'll get your original gradient back. Okay, let's understand these icons. So this is an opacity stop option. Let me show you what it means. If I click it, opacity values are visible here. Now see the magic. If I decrease the opacity of this point becomes transparent completely. Let me click OK. If I turn on the transparency view, now you can see I just created a transparent gradient with stroke. Let's go back to the gradient editor. And let's reset the opacity. Okay, so we can also add more opacity stop points if you wish, and change the opacity according to the requirements. So these are the same settings that we see in the preview solid color. So I leave it as it is. Let's move to the next stroke option. So this is a radial gradient option. If I click it, you can't see any changes here. Let me tell you why. I just increased the stroke width. Then I selected the start point and moved it to the center. Now you can see the radial gradient in this shape. And I can adjust its size by dragging this endpoint. Now if I open Gradient Editor, you can see this box is highlighted right now because I selected Radial Gradient. And you can switch radial to linear gradient by clicking here like this. I hope that's clear. Now the rest of the settings are the same as what we already learned. Let's talk about the limitations of stroke gradient. It's so important to know the limitations of stroke gradient before you start using it. So, this is our simple path, or you call it a straight line. What if I change the shape of this stroke, something like this? You can see the gradient is not following the path. If I change the gradient points, it's behaving like a linear way. So that is the biggest limitation of the stroke gradient. But don't worry, I have a solution to this problem, which I will tell you later in this video. Chapter 2. Alright, so right now I have a shape in my composition, and both points of this stroke are flat. It's called butt cap in After Effects. Now, if you want to change these points into a round shape, you can do it in After Effects. Let me show you how to do it. First, select the layer, then open the drop-down menu of this shape. Under the contents, you'll find Shape. Simply open it, then open the stroke so you'll see different properties of this stroke. Here, you'll find Line Cap. Let me extend this layer panel. Okay, so by default, it's set as a butt cap. Remember, the stroke points are flat now. If I click here, you'll see two more options, like a round cap and a projecting cap. I simply select the round cap, and right now you can see the stroke has a curved point on both sides. But as you can see, the shape extends a bit. Well, the question is how much it extends. So the stroke extends beyond the end of the path for a number of pixels equal to the stroke width in pixels. Let me switch it to butt cap and add guidelines so you can understand better. Alright, now if I change the cap, you can see the stroke extends beyond the end of the path for a number of pixels equal to the stroke width in pixels. Let's change it to another option called projecting cap. So the projecting cap is similar to butt cap. It also has flat points on both sides, but it also extends beyond the end of the path for a number of pixels equal to the stroke width in pixels. I hope you understand the difference between these caps. Let's set it as a round cap. Alright, let's see the next important option called line join. Let me add some points to this stroke path and change the shape something like this. As you can see, this shape has sharp corners, and we have some options to change it. Let me show you the options. Below the line cap, you'll find line join option. And by default, it's set as a meter join. If I click here, you can see two more options like round join and bevel join. Let's select round join first. So after selecting the round join, the corners are changed into smooth curves. And if I add more points to this path, round join is applied automatically to new points. Okay, now let's change round join to bevel join. This is a bevel join shape. And right now, if I add points and change the shape, this bevel join is automatically applied to new points. I hope everything is clear about caps and joins. Now, at this point, I want to share an important tip with you that can save you lots of time. So you don't need to go into the layer drop-down menu again and again to find a specific option, because After Effects provides you a search bar so you can search for any properties from here. But I am not using the search bar because I want to explain each point in detail. Once you understand the topics, you can use the search bar. Alright, let's move forward to the next topic, which is taper stroke. Okay, so to use the taper stroke, you have to go into the drop-down menu of this shape, like under the Contents, Shape, Stroke. Let me extend the layer panel. So this is a taper option. If I open it, you can see different properties of the taper, but I'll start with this option called Start Length. If I increase this value, it will look like this. Now pay attention, this is a start point, or you can call it a vertex, and this is an end point. But you can set this vertex or point as a start point. You just need to right-click here, then go to Mask and Shape Path, then choose Set First Vertex. That's it. Now this point is a starting point, and this one is the end point. Alright, let's undo this example and see the end length. So, as you can see, if I increase the value of end length, it looks like this. Let's make it more interesting. If I increase the start value as well, the stroke shape looks like this. Okay, so this is a start width. From here, you can change the width of the stroke. Just like the start width, you can change the end width from here. Then this is Start Ease. You can change the shape like this from this option. Basically, that's an option for customization. You can make a different kind of stroke by changing these taper properties from here. I covered almost all kinds of strokes except one, which is a combination of a butt cap and a round cap. Let's see how to create it in After Effects. So this is our normal stroke line in the composition. All you need to do is you want the start point as a butt cap. So set the start length value to 0.1%. That's it. Now you are able to make more path points, but the butt cap remains the same. Let's see how to create a dash stroke in After Effects. First, I need to create a path, so I select the Pen tool and create a rough shape in the composition. Then simply go to the search bar and type dashes. You'll get this option here. Or you can go like this, which is not recommended. Alright, as you can see, I am not able to open it. First, I need to click this plus sign to add a dash to this stroke line. After I click on this icon, you can see the dashes in the composition. And we got two options here. The first one is dash, and the second one is offset. If I increase the number of dash, it will increase the gap between the dashes. So, from these properties, you can increase or decrease the gap. Okay, so let's see what we can do with the offset. I can move the dashes by changing the offset value. Let me show you the best thing about this offset. If I click on this stopwatch to add a keyframe at the first frame, then move the time indicator to 3 seconds, then change the offset value to around 2000. So I will get this cool moving dashes animation. How easy and simple it is. And the best part of using the stroke is that I can change the shape of dashes. Also, if I want, I can change the shape by the pen tool without affecting the animation. Let's see the last topic of this part, which is offset path. I want to clarify one thing here. This offset path is different from the offset value, which you saw in the previous topic. Alright, so let's create a shape first. Okay, so this is a simple solid stroke. Now there are two ways to add offset path to this shape layer. The first one is simply clicking this Add button, and you'll find the Offset Path option here. To add this offset path to the shape layer, just click on it. And now you got the offset path. Alright, the second method to add an offset path is clicking this Add button and choosing Offset Path. In After Effects, you'll find this Add button in two places. Okay, let me open the Offset Path, and here you can see the properties of Offset Path. At this point, pay attention and see the magic. This is an amount option. If I increase the value of it, this will happen. Look at this shape. Right now, I just created a rectangular shape by increasing the amount value of Offset Path. You can see the original path is not changed, but the shape of the stroke is changed. So this is an offset path. Now let's see the other settings of it. I can change the miter join to round join and get amazing results. And I can still change the width of this stroke. The rest of the settings are the same as what you saw in the previous chapter. Chapter 3. So now you're familiar with the basics of stroke, and we can move forward to complex topics. Let's start by making a custom gradient stroke in After Effects, and then I will tell you the benefits of it. First things first, I'm going to create a rough shape with the pen tool in the composition, but this time I'll use the Roto Bezier option. Now, if I create a shape, you can see the path automatically converts into curves. It's called Bezier path. That's the use of the Roto Bezier option. Alright, so this is our shape. Let me align it to the center of the composition. And maybe I should increase the width of this shape. Alright, that's good. After that, I'm going to change the cap of this shape to round cap, and this time I'll use the search panel to find cap. Then simply change it to round cap. Alright, now it's the important part. Open the drop-down menu of the shape. Here you can find Stroke 1. Simply duplicate it as Stroke 2. After that, open Stroke 1. Then change the color from white to black. Click OK. After that, open the taper properties. Then change the start length value from 0 to 100%. So, you'll get this kind of design in the composition. Now I can close the Shapes drop-down menu and expand the view so you can see it better. Alright, now we are using some effects. Go to the Effects panel and type Fastbox Blur. Select the effect and drop it onto the shape layer. Then change the blur radius to 50. Then go to the Effects panel once again and type CC Composite. Select the effect and drop it onto the shape layer. Now you can find the Composition Original option here. Click on it, then you have to choose this option called Stencil Alpha. Now you can see we just created a gradient on a stroke. But we have one problem here. Let me open the transparency view so I can show you. You can see the gradient is not completely solid. It's a little bit transparent and we have to remove the transparency. So the easiest solution to this problem is to go to the Effects panel and type Levels. And select this effect and drop it onto the shape layer. Then change the channel to RGB to alpha. You can see the histogram graph here. You just need to select this point and drag it this way until the transparency is completely removed from the gradient. That's good. Now we have a perfect gradient stroke. Let me turn off the transparency view. It's time to add some color to this gradient, and I'm using Colorama effects for this. Simply search for the Colorama effects in the Effects panel, then drag and drop it onto the shape layer. That's looking so cool. After that, open the output cycle so you can see the colors to choose from. One more thing. If you look closely, the edges of the stroke are a bit pixelated. To make it smooth, go to the Effects Control panel, and under Modify, you'll find this option called Modify Alpha. Just turn it off, and the problem is solved. Alright, so let me quickly introduce you to some interesting functions of this effects. Number one is presets. If I click here, you can see different color presets, so you can choose from them. Or you can create your own custom color palette from here. It's called the Color Wheel. Alright, let me show you the benefits of this custom gradient stroke. If I change the path of this shape, you can see that the gradient follows the path of this shape. Let me show you an example and a comparison so you can understand better. So in this composition, you can see the two shapes. Both have a gradient, but the left one is a custom gradient, and the right one is a normal gradient. Now, look carefully at this animation. The custom gradient follows the stroke correctly, but on the other hand, the normal gradient cannot follow the stroke. And that's why I included this topic in this class. Let's move forward to stroke animation. Alright folks, it's time to animate a stroke line in After Effects. But before that, I have to create a shape with the pen tool. So I'll create a random shape in the composition. Then simply click this Add button and choose Trim Path. Now I just added Trim Path to this shape layer. Then simply open it. Here you'll get three properties: Start, End, and Offset. Let me show you how it works. So if I change the start values, it looks like this. And if I change the end value, it looks like this. And we can animate the stroke line by changing these values. So, to animate this stroke, let's set the time indicator to the first frame, then click on this stopwatch to add keyframes. Then, at the first frame, change the end value from 100 to 0%. Then move the time indicator to around 2 seconds and change the start and end values from 0 to 100%. At this moment, if I drag the time indicator between these keyframes, you can't see anything. But if I select the start keyframes and move forward a bit, so you can see the animation on the composition screen. If you want a shorter line, then simply select the keyframes and move them closer like this. Let's see the offset use and how to animate by offset. First, delete the keyframes. Then adjust the stroke length by changing the start and end points. Then add a keyframe at the first frame. Then move the time indicator around 3 seconds. And change the offset value from 0 to 360. And there you go. As you understand, you can animate the stroke by trim path in After Effects. Let's move forward and see a more interesting topic. Text outline animation. To animate the stroke of this text, I have to change this text into a shape. But before that, you have to adjust some settings. If you see here, this is the fill color of this text, and we have to remove this fill by clicking this icon. Okay, then you can increase the outline width from here. After setting up the text, just go to the layer, right-click, then choose Create Shape from Text. After clicking this, you can see one more layer added to the layer panel, which is a shape layer. Now I can delete this text layer. Alright, so as you know, we have to add trim path to this shape layer to animate this outline. So I select the layer, then click on the Add button, then choose Trim Path. As you can see, I just added trim path. Then simply open the trim path and change the N value from 100 to 0%. And add a keyframe on it at the first frame. Then move the time indicator around 4 seconds. Then increase the N value to 100%. And you'll get the text reveal animation. But at this point, all the letters are revealing at the same time. What if I want to reveal them one by one? Well, you can do it too. Look at this option called Trim Multiple Shapes. If I click here, this option will open. By default, Simultaneously option is selected. All you need to do is select Individually option. Now let's see the preview. That's looking good. But hey, wait a minute. Do you know how After Effects knows the correct order of the text? Well, let me show you how. So, as you can see under the shape layer, the text letters are placed in ascending order. And After Effects understands that. If I change the order of the letters like this, and play the preview is different because we changed the sequence. So make sure your sequence is correct. Okay, so let's undo this function. Let's make this animation more interesting using the offset option. So I set the time indicator at the last keyframe and add a keyframe on offset. Then go back to the first frame and change the offset value randomly. And now you can see the wonderful animation. Look at how satisfying the revealing animation is. Alright folks, it's time to say congratulations to everyone who completed this class. I hope you enjoyed this class, and if you have any questions or doubts, the comments section is always open for you. And if you are interested in motion design, you can join my upcoming courses at Motion Design Course. So that's it for now. See you in the next class.